I'm Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
And this is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is Sunday, Series Sunday, that one day of the week when we talk all things one series and one series only. So if you have not seen this series, this will be chock full of all of the spoilers. So turn back now or be prepared to find out what's going to happen in this show that just ended today in a very exciting turn of events. This is the very first Series Sunday in the history of Let's Talk BL that's actually coming out on the same day that the show ended.
Yes.
We've been planning this for weeks and weeks. Because we were like, here's the thing. We're in the States, which means that we get the episodes of Not Me on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And so from the beginning, we were like, this is perfect. We're going to record it in the morning and then it'll come out that evening. Right. And this will be amazing. And it'll be so much fun because we'll be really fresh on it, right? Like that's the other thing is it'll be so fresh and we'll be so hyped on what we just saw.
Yeah.
And then it turns out we're kind of stupid.
Because we are in such that like 12 episode mindset of like, it's only 12 episodes. It's only 12 episodes. So episode 12 was dropping. We were like, let's do this.
We were like, it's time, which is funny because we had actually had multiple conversations about how we were worried about how the show was going to end because we knew it was originally supposed to be 16 episodes and then they cut it down to 14.
Right.
So all season we've been talking about it's 14 episodes. Episode 12 rolls around and we're like, okay, it's time. And I wake up that morning and I'm like, and it hits me. I'm like, Beth Ann, this is not the finale. We have to record something else.
Amazing.
And so we did. It was fine. We switched some things around on the schedule. Yeah. But so that is why today, finally, March 20th, 2022, happy birthday, Portia. We are here with Not Me Series Sunday.
So good. I'm so excited. Shout out. You know, we love to dress up during a Series Sunday or
theme. We're on theme. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment and tell us if you think we look like we're ready to lead some civil distress.
Shout out to Alicia who sent us these lovely scarves.
They are the official
GMMTV
scarves.
Multi-purpose headband.
A way to disguise your identity if you want to protest.
Yes.
So
fight for some rights.
Yeah. Super here for it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts because there's so much to unpack in this series. It came out in 2022. Good old GMMTV leading the charge with some common political commentary on YouTube.
We love accessibility. Shout out
by this incredible director who has like a pretty storied history of like art and just putting out these meaningful movies and series. Her name is Director Nucci. Sorry if we haven't pronounced this right.
I watched the finale live like 3 times today. I rewound it to try. I was like, okay, we're gonna get this right. And I don't know if we're getting
she
it right.
Also directed this movie that when you learn Gunn's extensive career.
Well, when you first get into BL, right, you've got, obviously, you learn the pillars.
Yeah.
Right? The GMMTV pillars, one of which is Off Gun.
Right.
And so I feel like most people immediately go in and they're like, okay, what all can I see these people in? Like, why are they pillars? Like, what's the deal?
Right.
And so, when you start looking into Gunn, you find out he's like an actor. Yeah. Like, he's like an actor's actor.
And he did this really intense movie with Obe. Good old Obe that
everybody's good old today.
Good old Obe that also came in between PP and Bilkin.
Yeah, Obe a little bit. I mean, is he being typecast as a homewrecker?
I mean,
a little bit.
If the shoe fits.
So she directed The Blue Hour as well, which is really interesting when you think about her working with Gunn again on this project. Yeah. Considering the fact that it was like a brand new experience for all of the other actors, right? For Off and for First and for Mond and for everybody else.
I had no clue what was coming.
Right.
Because I've heard Gunn talk about his experience with The Blue Hour and how intense it was as is Not Me.
Right.
And just like the expectations that she has because her stuff is it's a lot darker. It's a lot of times commentary on different political or social things.
Right.
And so,
and in the same way that Gunn is like an actor, right? Like an actor's actor, like truly an artist. She is truly like a director. Like she's truly an artist. She's making art.
She wants to pull the character out of the actor. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the cast. We have Gunn playing White and Black.
Yes.
Like we'll get into
this. But now is not the time, but oh my God.
When just saying that, like my mind is blown thinking back to how he killed it. And we have Off playing Sean. And then we have their little civil disobedient gang.
Right. I hate calling them a gang because
a group of people.
I mean, listen, they are a gang in the sense that they are breaking the law
as a gang at times.
Yeah. And they are a gang in the sense that they're breaking the law, but also I would call them like a protest group.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you have Mond playing Graham, First plays Yoke, and Papang plays Gumpa.
Yes.
Who we realized today in today's episode is referred to as Hia. Like they instead of
first,
P,
though, only
just First.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which is like very interesting commentary on Yoke. So First plays Yoke on Yoke's character and like his history and background. Very interesting. Yes.
Okay.
Also, I understand that he's not a member of the gang, but like, listen, I'm not going to let us wait to mention the fact that a man I would truly die for is also in this show.
Yeah, well, they're side characters.
No, I understand this, but in my
later.
I understand this, but in my heart, he's a main character.
Okay, go for it.
So Gawain, Flute Gawain, plays Dan.
Yes.
And if I hear anybody disrespect Dan, I mean, there's gonna be some civil disobedience in this podcast.
We'll get to that because I feel like you were very mad at Dan.
No, I wasn't mad at him. Listen, we'll get to him.
Yeah.
I wasn't mad at him. I was just stating facts.
Okay, go ahead. Synopsis. Kill it.
Okay, synopsis time. This is really long.
This
is the first time I'm looking at this. Black and White are twins with a powerful connection. After their parents' separation, though, White's father took him out of the country, their family effectively severed in two. It isn't until 15 years have passed that White, now grown, returns to Thailand. One day, seemingly from nowhere, White feels an agony like death. He recovers in the hospital, but they're unable to determine the cause. Then he picks up a call from a childhood friend, Todd. Todd tells him that Black is in a coma following a vicious attack, and he learns that Black is in a motorcycle gang. Unable to endure the harm done to his brother in silence, and suspecting it was one of Black's close friends, Sean, Graham, or Yoke, who betrayed him, White disguises himself as Black to root out the traitor. But White doesn't know his brother as well as he thought. He's not behaving like the Black Sean knows. Distrustful and uncaring about the feelings of others. Sean's suspicious. The difference gets under Sean's skin and makes him feel things he shouldn't. Okay, first of all, the gang thing makes more sense. I've never heard them referred to as a motorcycle gang before, and now that I think about it, they do intro the motorcycle situation like really early on.
Right.
So the whole gang thing makes way more sense to me now.
Interesting. Yeah, because they're like always working on motorcycles. It's
right.
Like
it just never occurred to me that like they were a motorcycle gang.
They're a motorcycle gang that fights for justice.
Right. Yes.
I mean, which
justice
is
and
like
equality.
Yeah. Makes sense. Where to start?
First,
I want to start with episode 1 because I remember watching episode 1 and truly just like you have Gunn speaking Russian. You have Gunn being straight.
Right.
You have
Gunn is with a girl speaking Russian. There are lots. And listen.
Killing it right out the gate.
So first of all, they don't dub the Russian. The Russian is coming out of his mouth from his voice box. My dude speaks Russian. And I was just like.
You see in the behind the scenes him practicing.
I know. And I was just like,
wild.
Oh my God. Like he's amazing. This entire role, I kind of have always liked Gunn.
Yeah.
But in the sense that like I liked Gunn. You know what I mean? I wasn't like enamored by Gunn. Right. And now I am fully in awe of Gunn after watching this series. Truly.
Yeah. The range of skills that this actor shows is
the behind the scenes are just as good as the I am truly in awe of
honestly
Gunn.
For me it's because when you get into BL and you go through the off Gunn stuff, it's around theory of love, and we will discuss that too because of just
the redemption for Off.
Yeah, the difference in Off's character. And so they had this very interesting dynamic early on, right? It's like that whole, when you first get into, as an actor, when these boys are first getting into BL, kind of like what Tool was saying, where you're coming from society, you're coming from your own biases, and like you're suddenly having to do ship work, and people are believing that like you are this character, and clearly Off and Gunn are not their characters. And so it is wild from that first introduction of Off Gunn to then this, and just like the range that is shown, and just
especially between, and I feel like really in recent, maybe like the past year specifically, Gunn has really come into his own as like an individual person.
Right.
Again, I still don't think that we know Gunn, you know what I mean? Like I think that the piece of Gunn that we are allowed to see is very much,
especially because we don't speak Thai.
It
so
is
we
very
have
much
no
like
clue.
a curated version of Gunn.
Right.
But I think that curated version of Gunn, if you look back, has really, like, I just think he's really started to come into his own in the past, like, maybe year.
Yeah.
But I feel like what was interesting for me, and especially watching this, is that I really like Theory of Love, actually.
Yeah.
And I really quickly, like, I imprinted on Off. Like, I very early on in my like BL watching journey was like, oh my God, Off.
I remember.
And so I went back and like I watched Puppy Honey, and I watched all of the Off Gun Fun Nights, and I watched like Off Gun Mommy Taste, and I watched, like, I know just the title of it, like the title of that YouTube series.
When I had to say that to Omen Nanon, I was like, oh, this sounds so weird.
Off Gun Mommy Taste, right? But so I had a very specific impression of Gunn really early on, because Gunn very much played that like cute character, and Gunn is very cute. He is, and I think there are aspects of his personality that are very cute. But he's
so also 28
much deeper
now,
than
so
that. Yeah, and there's so much more to him, and so just like again, like him in this character truly has me in awe for so many reasons. And I mean, even right off the bat, like, him introducing us to White. And because that first episode is really an introduction to White.
To the twins,
But really just White for the most part, like as an adult, right? Because you see them as little kids so that they can explain the connection.
Yeah.
I mean, he just does an outstanding job. There's
I truly am in awe, and I'm in awe of how I said this about Max Tool during Manor of Death, when they like are first meeting each other and you fully believe that they don't really remember each other at all. That blows my mind when these ships can go into other roles and they have to start back over, right? Where it's like they're starting back over of like White is coming into this role not knowing Sean, and has to not only not know him as like Off, but also has to pretend like he does know him.
Right.
Like there's so many layers to this interaction, and it is wild. But the chemistry between these two is fascinating to watch, because it's very understated.
Right. Off Gun do kill it with the chemistry. I mean, they have a really interesting relationship, and they have a really long relationship. And I feel like they are, with the exception of maybe Tay and New, the most consistently booked in terms of ship work pillar at GMMTV. So they have the most experience doing ship work, because for the most part, Off Gun have never stopped being Off Gun, right? They've always had like,
they're like Chris Singto.
But even Chris Singto has like slowed down a bit, right? Off Gun just has always consistently like been filming Off Gun Fun Night, and then like Off Gun Mommy Taste, and then all their brand appearances, and then they had shows, and then so like I feel like Off Gun have the most practice as playing the ship, right? And so, like their dynamic is really, really interesting to watch. And there are a few moments in the show. It doesn't happen often. Like, I feel like it happens way more often in Bad Buddy, where you look at that and you're like, that's just Omen and Nan. But there are two specific moments I can think of that I was like, this is just Off Gun, and I kind of love it.
Yeah. And it's in those like sweet, like lovey-dovey moments.
Right. So one of them, to skip ahead, is in this finale.
Yeah.
when they're in the tent after they've been caught, right? And they're like out on, or no, it's before they turn themselves in, but after they get pulled out of the van.
Yeah.
And they're in the tent and they're just kind of like goofing around a little bit. Like they've had this serious conversation and they're like goofing around. And there's like a moment where Gunn like giggles a little bit.
Yeah.
And I say Gunn purposely and not White because I was like, in that moment, that was Gunn.
It feels like Gunn, yeah.
And so like that's one very like, I was like, this is just off Gunn.
Also, the scene, the confrontations that Sean has with Black after he's woken up.
The evil little gremlin who's not so evil. I don't know how I feel about Black. Black is very layered to me.
That scene where Black has figured out that White and Sean are a thing.
Well, he hasn't figured out. He literally watched them like tongue in.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes to have a confrontation with him under the bridge in that place, which again it adds another layer, and that I'm just realizing the fact that like he has this confrontation with him at that spot where it's like so meaningful for Sean.
Right, for Sean.
And when they get into that fist fight, really when Black starts railing on Sean, like that was overwhelming for me. Like I absolutely cried in that scene and
I
was like
sobbed.
Like the depths of feeling that Sean has for White, because you've seen it unfold in this very incredible way. And and poor Sean has no clue. He has no clue.
I was distraught. I was so distraught that I was like, maybe he knows. Like I was trying to gaslight myself. I was fully trying to gaslight myself.
He has to know. Of course he knows.
I was like, he knows. I was like, I fully was gaslighting myself into it because I was so distraught.
You have to hope, because if he doesn't know, like then
what has just happened to him is devastating. And so like, I literally might cry thinking about it now.
It was
like,
a lot.
That scene, that confrontation, I was truly distraught for Sean. Yeah. And that is how much, like, Sean, in my opinion, I think I'm willing to say I think Sean is the best character in this show in terms of, like, quality of character and, like, the way that he's played and the way that his, like, emotions unfold and the actions that he takes, like, and how developed he is. Yeah. And so I very much love Sean as a character, and I also love Off. And so, but what's interesting is like, I don't actually see Off when I'm watching this show. Like I see Sean, which again, we've talked about before, is like the marker of a good actor and a good show.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God, that scene. And that was before I watched that episode. I saw somebody on Twitter refer to Black as an evil little gremlin.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like know what that was referring to because it was before Black had woken up.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I thought it was funny. Like,
wasn't
I was
that
just
before
like,
you even started watching the show? Because you waited.
Yeah, I waited because I was like, this is Off Gun, and I love them.
You're never gonna be able to wait.
I'm never gonna be able to wait week to week. Like I'm gonna want more and more and more of this. So I waited as long as I held out as long as I possibly could, and I eventually gave in. But yeah, it was before I had even started the show, and I just thought it was funny. I was like, this is a funny phrase.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is another thing I want to talk about. The memes that came out of this show are truly quality. I gotta hand it to the fans on Twitter this time around. Like, y'all fandom killed it. Truly. And so, but it was in that moment, I was like, he is like not even in a joking way an evil little gremlin. I was so truly upset.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just crazy. But also shout out to all the fans on Twitter. I was in a Twitter space this morning with a bunch of fans because you were still asleep.
Yeah.
Celebrated a birthday yesterday. So it was, there's like a late night.
We woke up early, but then I went back to sleep.
I didn't. I had a productive day. It was a good time for me. Nice. But so I watched the episode before you did.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, because I actually really liked the finale. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about the finale, and I do too a little bit. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I was left with this sense of like, I was really happy with what happened to 2 out of the 3 couples here, or 2 out of the potentially 4 couples.
How many couples are there? What are the 4 couples?
So
Sean
and White, Dan and Yoke, Graham and Eugene. And maybe Black and Todd.
Right, we'll get to that one. Okay.
But so I was like,
I ship it.
I was like, I like what happened half of the way.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, I really need to talk about this. And I was like, I really want to hear what other people think about this. And so
Right.
I was on the Twitter feed and I just happened to notice, because you know how spaces, if somebody you follow is in a space, it'll show you at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw one that was like not me support group. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And I tapped in, and yeah, these other not me fans were just like chatting, and they like let me speak, which was so kind and generous of them to like let me be a part of their conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
And it turns out they do this every week, which is awesome, and I live for it. And we were just like talking about the show, and so like truly, I feel like the fans on Twitter, especially the show around, killed it. Like the memes, the spaces, the everything that all the fans did, like that was where this show lived and evolved.
Which is a marker of a good show, that people want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Shout out to You're My Sky, because we've had many endless discussions. Because I think that's what good art does, is it creates a conversation that hopefully leads to, you know, thought processes and truly kind of implications for actual real life, right? Like, sure, you sometimes watch shows to just like escape and have fun and whatever, but sometimes it's nice to have shows that like that make you think.
Well, and what's nice about this show too is I feel like everyone who's watching it, ourselves included, and this was reflected in that Twitter space I was on today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, called out the parts of it that like didn't quite work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that is sometimes rare in the BL world. Like, we made a joke about it recently about another show that like people are sometimes afraid to express constructive criticism about a show, right? Saying something isn't quite right or isn't this or isn't absolutely perfect doesn't mean that you hate the show. That's or you hate the people, right? And it also doesn't mean you hate the people involved in it. Like, not every show has to be a masterpiece, right? Not every show has to be a masterpiece, and it doesn't mean that you're like being mean to the people that worked on it. So I do really appreciate that about everybody that watched this show as well.
So on that note, for me, it was the moment where the BL kind of begins felt a little disjointed. You didn't feel the same way, I don't think. But for me, because I didn't quite see Sean's character clearly, like I couldn't quite figure him out. So it felt very sudden when he was like white /
like,
black,
you keep me alive.
Is now the meaning. But then I guess like looking back, you think of like kind of everything that he went through with his dad and kind of his whole life overall. He's a pretty intense character and a very much like all or nothing type of guy. And so when at some point when he decided that like, black white is gonna be like is who I've now fallen in love with, like it probably is gonna be very sudden.
Yeah, I think the reason that it didn't really like shock me as much, or that it didn't feel disjointed for me, is because like I'm a very all or nothing kind of person. Like, if I decide that I love something or I'm into something, like, we're all in. Like, it is full speed ahead. I mean, I got engaged after dating someone for 2 weeks.
Right.
And not to date myself, but many years later, I am still more than 10 now. I am still married to that person. And so like, I very much am like an all or nothing kind of person myself, that after 2 weeks I was like, sure, I'm in, let's do this thing. Like, fully. So I think that's why it didn't feel disjointed to me. And also because like, I guess the way that I have always seen Sean's character, but you get a lot more of it once you learn about his history of why he got into the gang,
right,
is that he followed Black after he watched Black kind of like take a stand.
Right.
And so he actually so remember, he falls in love with White thinking that he is Black. And so if you think about Sean's history with Black, he has followed Black into this gang because he's watched Black take a stand for something, and with his dad and everything that happened, like that's what he wanted. Like, he wanted that kind of action.
So he like admires him.
And he admired him for taking that action. And he thought, this is the person I'm going to follow. And then he got to know Black, right? And he was just like, so I guess like he had romanticized, because I think Sean as a character does this. He romanticizes things, not in a romantic relationship kind of way, but like in the way that
put
like,
it on a pedestal.
Right. That's a better way to put it, is like he put Black's actions on a pedestal. And so then he got to know Black, and like Black kind of sucked. Like Black was mean to him, and like Black was just not a good dude.
And like,
right. And so, but all throughout this time, Sean has committed himself to Black's cause. So he has been committed to Black for years, right? And it started from a place of admiration. And so once Black, or who he thinks is Black,
once White comes into the
has
picture,
come in, right? Yeah. So who he thinks is Black, right? So, and once Black, in his mind, this is Black, right? It is White. We know it's White, but in his mind, it's Black that he's interacting with. Seems to have changed and become the person that he wanted him to be, right? He becomes this person, or he sees reflected in Black all of these traits that he admired in the first place, and that he was like hoping to be in this person. That's why I think like it wasn't a quick fall. Like it looks like he fell in love quickly, but I think that it was the fact that like Black had not been the person that he wanted him to be for so long.
On like a personal
level.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden, all of these characteristics that he always wanted in this person were there.
Right.
And he was like, okay, yeah.
It's classic BL trope where suddenly the one character has to move in with another character, and then the falling in love happens. I will say on the other note, the thing that they did so well that makes you embrace their relationship so wholeheartedly is that there's acknowledgement that although Sean thinks this is Black, he very much has fallen in love with White.
Right.
And you fully believe that like there's a very clear separation. So when Sean does find out that White is not Black, he very quickly can accept it because he's like, I knew there was something different.
Yeah. He's like, I know these are two different people.
They handled that so perfectly.
I know, because it could have been so bad. And I remember watching that episode and being like, tell him, just tell him, just tell him.
Like, you're like, you don't want him to sleep with him with the idea that like he's sleeping with Black. Like you want White to have that fully to himself.
Right. Yeah. And you don't want Sean, or at least I didn't want Sean to be hurt in that way. Like I very much was like team Sean all the way the whole time.
Right.
And I was like, tell him, just tell him. Like, because you have to tell him.
Also in that moment when they have that scene where they talk about like kissing with their eyes open, he's like, do you have a sibling? Like they're playing that game. You were in that moment like, oh, he definitely knows.
I was like, he knows.
Yeah. And he did not know.
He did not know. Again, that was me trying to like gaslight myself into like wanting this to work so well. Yeah. But yeah, they do handle the whole like Black and White thing really well. And I think that I love the way that Sean forces White into this confession. And I love the way that White handles it, right? He has the exact right emotional response where he's like, I know I have to be truthful because I also love this person.
Yeah.
But also I'm scared.
Right.
Which is a valid emotional response.
100%.
And it was just the relationship between the two of them is handled so brilliantly.
The show is incredible.
And like, honestly, I might pay $50 to get the stupid button bracelets. Like I truly might, because it's like $14 for a set of two, but then the shipping.
Well, this is a lighter product, so maybe your shipping won't be as bad.
I already calculated it. The shipping is $36 and the product is $14.
I mean, that's
so
better.
Like $50.
Because shirts usually it's like a $75 shipping fee. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, we have to move on from White
and Black. Okay, so let's move on to Black, because I do want to talk about how Gunn played White and Black.
Yeah, okay.
Because I mean,
okay, so one of my other favorite shows is a show called Orphan Black, and the actress Tatiana Maslany plays these like clones, and she kills it. And not since that, and she's won like, I think she won like an Emmy award for it. Like she's won really prestigious awards for it. So when I then watched this, he is at that level. He is at this level where like you look at these two characters, and first of all, you don't see Gunn.
No.
Second of all, I at no point realize think about the fact that there's one person playing both of these characters.
No, I always know who's Black and who's White, and they're very distinct and different to me. And
especially when they're in the same scene.
Yeah.
Even more so when they're in the same scene, you're like, how is like one of them taller than the other, and one of them's like holding themselves?
I mean, and just like the look in his eyes. I think that's one thing that always impresses me about certain actors is the way that they can completely change their entire face and the entire character with just their eyeballs. Like not the eyebrows, not the smile, not the cheek, not the like nothing, the eyes.
Shout out Sia.
I mean Sia. Right. So Sia is another one who can do this. And it really is like being able to act with your eyes. So like Gun does this. Right? Gun does this and Sia does this in You're My Sky, which is one it adds such depth to that character that Sia's playing.
It also like endears you to them so strongly and so quickly
because you feel that emotion, right?
Because I wonder if like you would give Black the benefit of the doubt at all if it weren't for White.
I never gave Black the benefit of the doubt.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
Like, would you have some type of like any type of like empathy for Black if it weren't for the White of it all?
No. Not until White, because there are a few moments where White explains, he's like, well, my brother did this because of this. Right? Or he's trying to protect me because of this.
the only good moments that the evil little gremlin has is when how deeply he cares for White.
Right. His only redeeming moments are when he is clearly doing something in protection of White. Because even that fist fight that, like, honestly, it was so funny. And again, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get dinged on YouTube for me quoting this meme, because I think you can have like up to 2 curses, and this is definitely going to count as a curse.
A curse.
But so there's a meme on YouTube, and this is like after Black has woken up and they're in this like safe house, whatever. And he says to Sean, he's like, oh, can you even stand up? And somebody turned it into this meme and wrote, Black needs to put some respect on Sean's name. His dick literally woke you up from your beauty sleep.
Yes, that meme is quality.
And I swear to God, I mean,
because even Black's friends, like, he's not endeared to them at all.
No.
Like, everybody kind of like, only because he's like a really big social warrior, like standing up for the right thing. Sure. Like, no one really likes him.
I know, and he does, like, he gets stuff done.
Except like
Eugene. Eugene likes him.
Yes, but potentially she's also been gaslit into liking him. You know, everyone loves a bad boy.
Anyways, so it's like it's this scenario, right? And they and Sean has figured it out, right? Like Sean figures out the twin brother thing, and he confronts Black because he's like, "Where's White?" He's like, he knows that a switch has happened, and like even in that they have this fist fight, and I was like, first of all, so impressive. This fist fight was so, and I feel like it was probably really fun for Off Gun.
This one was a little comical because that first one was intense.
The first one was devastating to me, and I don't even want to think about it.
This one was kind of funny.
This one was kind of funny, mostly because like when Sean slaps that handcuff on, and he turns and he just clocks him, like
he gets
clocks him hard. You're like,
yes, thank you.
Like, and the parallels to, like, again, it always comes back to Your Nice Guy. When Torn, it's the same feeling you get when Torn finally stands up to Fa, and he's like, I don't leave people leave me. And you're like, yes, right? But so he turns around and he clocks Black in the face, and then they start fist fighting. I love this fist fight. I think it was super fun for Off and Gun to do. And also, they're laying on the ground and they finally decided, like, right, like he's finally tapped out. And he's like, don't date my little brother. And you realize in that moment that that's where all of this is coming from for Black. That in his mind, he thinks that his little brother deserves, or they're twins, but he considers him his little brother.
He calls him that the whole time.
Right. That he doesn't think Sean is good enough for his brother. That's what all of this comes down to, is that Sean's not good enough. And in that moment, I was like, okay. Like, he's still an evil little gremlin, but that was that endeared him to me a little bit. He was trying to
protect his little brother,
that it all came back to he's protecting his brother, and that White was so endeared to me that I was like, I get that feel. Like, you're going about it wrong and you're wrong.
And again, it lays that groundwork because you always wonder, like, was there anything on Black's end towards Sean? Like, you are very much unclear about. And I think this leads into the be all of it all, where the funny part of this show was that literally everyone wanted to ship everyone with everyone.
This freaking show.
There were definitely some solidly straight characters in this show, but the BL of it all was like, oh wait, are Grimm and Black a thing? Are Todd and Black a thing?
Literally everyone all season long, everyone was like, it's Grimm and Black, it's Grimm and Black. And like, admittedly, the show did that to us.
Oh, 1000%.
The show, because when all the way until that revelation has anyone called Eugene Gene?
Yeah.
Never once.
Never.
So, like,
shout out to these like directors, writers, producers, like you.
No, I think that's
clearly
super annoying
laid the groundwork.
It's super annoying
to keep us questioning literally every relationship that ever existed.
Honestly, I hated it. Don't try and gaslight me that way. But whatever.
Poor Gumpa never got any.
Gumpa never got any.
Who would you ship Gumpa with?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, okay, this could be like a trap scenario. Maybe we ship him with like the little kidnapper man.
I was literally thinking that, but the big burly guy that they meet in the hospital, the one that like Black takes out with
that's a police officer. That's okay.
Okay, that's
so you want him with the policeman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like I want him with like a big daddy.
It's like Dan Yoke, but like make it grown up, make it trapped.
Yeah. Because we know that Gumpa is like a significant amount older than them. Right. Yeah.
Anyways, I actually hated this whole like it's Gene, not Graham, whatever. Like, that was annoying to me.
I never understood that. I was like, you guys are reaching. Like, I don't understand where this is coming from.
No, I always was like, clearly it's a Graham Black situation.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating for me because I literally all season long watched people be like, Graham and Black, Graham and Black, Graham and Black. Yeah. And I was like, and then I thought about it. I was like, y'all, they're both fighting over a girl.
So good.
So, like, clearly they're not into each other.
Truly a girl to be fought over.
I mean, she's beautiful.
Incredible. She's smart. She's fallen in love with the wrong man.
I don't know that would we call Eugene smart?
I think so because we all do dumb things for love, but like she's like very much a solid character because like she fights for rights. Like she's very much like, apart from her clear weakness for Black, I think I guess, and then I feel like her weakness for all the wrong men. Because let's talk about.
Listen, I love her. I think the actress is wonderful and she's beautiful. But yeah, I was like, okay, everybody's shipping Graham and Black, and then when they couldn't ship Graham and Black anymore, immediately it was Todd and Black.
Yeah.
And you really were fighting for this Todd and Black thing.
I thought it was so interesting.
You really thought, and I was like, Beth Ann, no, you're reaching. Like,
and then the last episode makes you think maybe Todd and White.
No, I never thought Todd and White. No. Okay, I never thought Todd and White.
Even that moment where he's like, if I could kill you, I would, but we clearly both know why we can't.
No, I never thought it was a romantic thing. Never. Because, no, that's right. Again, this is reaching. Bestie. You're reaching for the BL for no reason. It's like the BL of this show has everyone in this fandom so confused.
Yeah.
You're reaching for the BL. It's not there. The only BL in this scenario is Sean and White. And that's Dan the BL. Yoke. And Dan and Yoke. Right. Yeah. Like the established BL.
Yeah.
You don't need to reach. They gave us 2 BLs. You don't got to reach for the other BLs.
So do you think Todd just is like,
I don't know.
Friend?
I honestly, so the whole time I was like,
why do you think he says, if I could kill you, I clearly would?
No, well, he doesn't say I clearly would. He was like,
you wouldn't be standing here.
You wouldn't be standing here. Right. So I think that okay. First of all, my initial thought process was like, Black and Todd, not a thing. That's ridiculous. And then the finale happened and you see the flashback. Oh, this was so confusing to me. And they have this very like heartfelt like showdown, and like Black is pointing a gun at his face.
Yeah.
And like they both have tears in their eyes, and there's this like very like, and Todd is like, I know you can't hurt me because even though our paths have diverged and and they're like, and clearly Black doesn't kill him, and they both have tears in their eyes, and I'm like in that moment I was like,
there's more.
I was like, maybe I was like, they're friends. Maybe they want to kiss. They're enemies. Maybe they want to kiss. I was like, maybe. And then immediately Black is like, nah, I just beat the shit out of him and put him in a coma. It's fine. And I was like, oh, okay. So guess not. But as far as the white of it all, I think when he said, if I could kill you, I would. Mm-hmm. I do think it's in relation to White. And I think what has happened is that Black and Todd clearly have kept in touch. They've been in the same country for this past 15 years.
Yeah, but they're two
and
very
they have some sort of friendship. And I think that
I don't know, friendship. I would say maybe
some sort of like relationship in relation to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Or they previously had a friendship, right? Like that's very clearly established as they previously had a friendship. Right. And I think that when he says, if I could kill you, I would, it's because he would kill Black, but he still has those, like White is still very much his friend, right? You see it in the way, even though he does use White to his own ends, right? In a very like manipulative, bad way. I think that he doesn't have the same animosity towards White. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Todd is fully evil. I think that Todd
he's a business
took
man.
A different approach to, he was like, I'm going to change things from the inside out, and then went off course. And I think that he just doesn't, I think he doesn't have the will to hurt White, right? Because like even when he went to like drown Black, he couldn't do it because he knew the connection had been reestablished. Because when he put Black in that coma, he knew it wasn't going to affect White because they had been separated, right?
True,
so like everything he ever did to Black, he stopped short of legitimately hurting White. And I think it's just that he has this like longtime friendship, and I don't think he's truly evil to his core.
Yeah.
So I never saw a BL in it at all, because like how could White and Todd be a thing? They haven't known each other for 15 years.
Yeah, I never thought White and Todd. I thought...
Oh, you said White and Todd earlier.
I thought Black and
But Black Todd. And Todd, I was like, no, you're reaching. And then the last episode, I was like, maybe. And then they flipped the script on me again, and I was like, no, definitely not.
I think Black and Todd from Todd's perspective.
I don't think so. I don't think that Todd is in love with Black. I think all of his actions and not hurting Black have to do with his friendship, like the feelings of friendship he feels towards White.
Again, the show, there's so many things that you could come up with of like who did what.
I mean, I will say the pacing is a bit off for me. That's just another thing I would say is like, I think there were some things left undeveloped. I think that there were some things that were developed purposefully in a way to make people think a certain way that then were not gracefully exited, like the whole Graham and Black situation.
That was truly like ridiculous.
I will say, so let's talk about this whole like 4-couple situation, because we have not talked about Black or Graham and Eugene. All I'm going to say about this is Graham's a terrible friend. Eugene's an idiot.
Yeah.
I understand that's your rebound girl, but like you maybe shouldn't have a rebound with a guy who's like willing to let his friends die, who's willing to betray his best friend, who doesn't even care that his best friend has clearly been missing and like body snatched. Right. Because Graham is supposed to be his best friend, but Sean's the one that notices.
Right.
And also, like, I don't know, maybe
he kissed Eugene while they were still together.
While they were still dating.
Or no, I guess like
they were on a break or whatever.
Black had just broken up with her, and she's like going through it.
Yeah,
and, like,
so like he emotionally kind of manipulates her, right?
Yeah.
He takes, when she's in a vulnerable position, he kisses her.
Yeah.
Also, like, maybe don't get with a dude who says things that are manipulative, like, when I thought I was going to die, all I saw was your face. And then immediately, Dome. And then immediately, as soon as you say you're going to give him a chance and you're willing to go out with him, he's like, I love you. Yeah. Like, red flag. And like, girl, this is not a red flag you want to ignore. So like, I think Eugene is an idiot, and I think Graham is a bad friend for so many reasons. He was willing to let Yoke die, and that was enough for me. I was like, this got pointed out to me by Sweetest BL when we did a Twitter space with Sweetest BL yesterday. Yeah. She was like, he was gonna let Yoke die, and I like, that didn't even occur to me. I was like, oh, you're right. And in that moment, I was like, oh yeah, I'm done.
He only thinks for himself.
He fully was like, Yoke was sitting next to him bleeding out with a bullet in him, and he was like, we can't go to the hospital, I don't want to get arrested.
Yeah, he was only concerned for himself.
Bro,
He's the worst person.
He's terrible.
Okay, let's talk Yoke, Dan. Yoke, just Yoke in general.
Listen, here's the thing.
When his first interaction with his mom, and he starts doing sign language. Y'all, I have a like deep history. I took a sign language class in college. I went to go see Spring Awakening, the Deaf West version. Like, I love sign language. I think that like is beautiful. And so when I see Yoke talking to his mom and just like the relationship he has with his mom, because the families in this show are some of the deepest family relationships you've really ever seen in BL.
Yeah.
These characters are driven by their love and devotion to their families.
Yeah, that's true.
Every single character. And it is beautiful to see because it truly grounds you so much more to these characters and honestly, to like the cause.
At the end when Yoke was talking, near the end when Yoke was talking about how what would happen to his mom if he disappeared, I was like sobbing.
Yeah. So Yoke as a character is so like, you just from the get-go, you're like, this boy, he's fighting for the right thing.
He's an artist.
He's an artist. He fully just like goes after things with his whole heart, because once he
is the sweetest little love at first sight.
I mean, honestly, like that whole situation where he like falls in love with Yunar, like the artist, and then he meets him and you just see him look at him, and just like all of us when we see Gawain, we're like, yes.
We're like,
if he had pulled out a guitar in the show,
we're fully like, I'd risk it all for this man. And
we
you know what's sad is Nucci, the director, recently said she said she just recently found out that Gawain could play guitar and sing, and she said if she had known earlier, she would have had him do it. And like,
it's for the best that he didn't.
I feel robbed. I'm calling the police. Except not really.
Nice. I love that. So yeah, so I felt their relationship was very well developed, with like just like the emotional depth that they go to so quickly. I think worked well for their characters because they like hit the ground running with this relationship.
I mean, they kill it. And the way that they develop this relationship, and what I love about it is very clearly a gay relationship. Like, both characters are gay. This is not a like, I'm only gay for you, or like you've awakened my feelings in myself, or
it's
like
fast, but it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense because they are both interested in men and they're interested in each other. And it's like, it is this perfect, beautiful, like it's so well done and well rounded, and you never question it, and you never like there's nothing for them to work through in terms of like that classic BL thing that happens, which is like, do I like a man?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. And so I love it so much for their characters. Now, what we were talking about when we first got started, I do think Dan betrayed them. I stand Dan fully, and I'm not mad at him for betraying them, but the fact of the matter, I'm just stating facts.
You're just disappointed.
I'm not even disappointed in him. It's just a thing that his character did, right? And I think that it makes sense for his character. That's why I'm not mad about it or disappointed in it. And this is why it doesn't mean I'm disparaging Dan. It's just, it makes perfect sense for his character to do what he did. But the fact of the matter is, he did betray them. Like, that was a betrayal, because what happened was he gets kidnapped, he gets taken to the chief of police, like the chief of like all the police.
Doesn't he get taken to Tawi?
No, Tawi is not there,
because the actor boss, whoever he is, that like bad guy that like then takes the gang.
Tawi's not there. No, Tawi's not present at all.
Okay,
but Tawi and the police are like, corrupt together. Right. So he gets taken to the big head honcho policeman guy. Okay. And I think he's a policeman guy. Actually, a lot of people have questions about this. It was pretty clear to me that he was associated with the police based on the plaques that are on the wall when he gets taken to that little house. But anyways, and this guy is like, dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, and I'm going to kill your mom. basically.
Yeah.
And without making jokes, like, he's like, you need to know your place.
Yeah.
He's like, I will let you throw your temper tantrums however you want to artistically, but you need to know your place.
You need to pick a side.
And helping this gang, not even pick a side. He's like, you can throw temper tantrums and you can be not on our side technically, but you cannot help usurp us actively, right? And he's like, and if you do, I'll kill you. I'll kill your family. Bad things will happen to you.
Yeah.
And I think that for who Dan is as a person, it makes sense for him to then betray that gang. Now, if that exact same scenario had happened to anyone in the gang, they wouldn't have folded. And that's what makes it a betrayal. Is any other member of that gang, including White, if that had happened to him, they never would have folded. They never would have betrayed the gang. And that's what makes it a betrayal. It was flat out a betrayal. I think he did the best he could for his character in the situation he was in.
Right. I don't see it as a betrayal because, like what you said, like, so Dan isn't part of the gang. He's helping them out.
He took a blood oath. No, he took a blood oath. He's in the gang, which is why it's super funny that he gets he clocked in the face. It's my favorite scene in the whole finale. But
so for me, I think it's one of those things where, like, he kept himself in the game, because if he were to be killed off or whatever, he wouldn't have been in that moment at the hospital where he could, like, be the catalyst that let them get away.
Moment in the hospital wouldn't have happened if he hadn't betrayed them. That is literally the whole point. He led the police directly to where they were because he knew where they were, and that's the betrayal.
Right.
That moment in the hospital wouldn't have happened at all, period. They would have got away. Fine. None of that would have happened if he hadn't betrayed them.
Interesting.
Now, when it became clear to him that him continuing to work within the system, which is his whole problem, right? Yeah. He works within a corrupt system and he continues to try to work within that system.
He was trying,
even though it's been proven to him time and time again that that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And that's where the betrayal comes in, is that never would have happened if it weren't for him betraying them.
And the true justice of, like, him quitting at the end was, like, it was like, I don't think that's justice.
So what, he quit his job, like, congratulations, you still betrayed your friends, like, you still led to this scenario where they literally almost were murdered, right? And the only reason they weren't murdered is because of people who had a stronger sense of will than he did. Right. And that were not right. And so, I mean, it's just a fact of his character. I like Dan. I like Dan and Yoke. I'm super stoked that Yoke gave Dan a second chance.
He just made a mistake.
He's a weak person is what happened. And
which is established from the beginning with that whole situation where, like, wild that they made that connection of him being the one who killed Sean's dad, which I was like, as soon as he told that story, I was like, it's gonna be Sean's dad.
Yeah.
Like, I pretty much knew it from the get-go, which, like, man, the, like, just like the emotional depth that they gave to Dan was interesting to see, because he's a police officer, right? So, like, you think he's just gonna be like this hard-nosed guy, but the fact that, like, he does this political art, the fact that he, like, has that emotional scene with Yoke off the bat, the fact that, like, he's such a dynamic character, and that, like, he has this obligation to this job that he has pursued, but at some point he has to, like, kind of throw his hands up and say, like, I can no longer be within this system because I don't believe it. There's nothing that's going to change.
Here's the thing. I think that he's a weak person that doesn't want to be weak, but is weak nonetheless.
Yeah.
Right. Boy. And so, like, he did betray them.
I would love to see 5 years from now, like, if Dan and Yoke being together has like empowered Dan to not be a weak person.
I mean,
like, do you think he has potential to not be weak?
I don't think so. I think, because here's the other thing is, like, Dan is a full grown man, right? Like, you have to remember, like, he has a whole police career under his belt, right? So, like, he's pretty, once you reach a certain age, like,
did he go into the police, like, force, like, right out of high school?
Yeah.
So then he's probably in his early 20s, right?
Maybe, because
wasn't there, like, Sean's a 5-year difference?
Sean's dad died, like, a while ago. And all of these kids aren't 5 freshmen. Years. So, like, he's a full grown man.
So potentially he's in his early 20s.
Potential. I don't know if I would say early. He's probably mid to late 20s based on the timeline, right? Because, like, Sean's dad died when he was young, right? Like, he talks about it.
Right. Was he young?
And
was he not
killed
the teen?
Sean's dad, right? He was a teen, but like it's been like
I want to say 5 years. Why do I feel like there's
I don't
a 5
know. I
year
think
thing?
you made that up. Kind of like how you made up Todd and Black were dating.
So I didn't say they were dating. I thought that there was some kind of affection there. There was some kind of history there. But that's the thing is like, I feel like he's still growing. I mean, we know like it takes like, there's a maturity. There's a like very long length of maturity that men have to take within their 20s in general.
I think he's a weak person that will always be weak, and that's okay. Not everybody can be a political
You don't think him
activist.
quitting his job was him kind of growing and like him, because he didn't quit his job after he like killed somebody.
No.
Interesting. But you still like Dan.
Yeah.
You just think he's a pathetic person.
I didn't say pathetic. I think he's a weak person that's not, like,
interesting.
Yeah, not everybody can be a political activist, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It doesn't make you a bad person.
I wonder what he'll do next.
That, like, he can't bring himself to put his life in danger, right? It doesn't make you a bad person.
Doesn't he kind of put his life in danger by doing that artwork?
No, I don't think so, because like flat out they told like he knows he's disguised, right? And he does it hidden, and he's not on the front lines, right?
Right.
It's like under uses a fake name, right? Like
right.
No, he's not really risking his life doing that.
Interesting.
But again, not everybody can be that person, right? If we were all that person, there'd be a lot more conflict in the world.
Totally. First and Fluke kill this relationship and this role.
His name's Gowan. I don't know, this whole Fluke situation.
I'm just going off what GMMTV tells me, so I'm going to stick with that for this purpose only. So I love them together, but I'm so excited for First and Cowtongue for the eclipse. I'm so excited.
Yeah, the eclipse is gonna be really good. The other thing about Dan and Yoke is like, I will go down with this ship fully. Like, I'm so here for it.
They're good.
Because like that moment when there's that the gunfight in the garage, and of like nothing happens between them. They've already made out.
Yeah, I love this
but
moment.
Like they like go and take cover, and they like look at each other, and they like check each other, and it's non-sexual, like it's not sexual in any way.
It's just like concern for each other.
It's the concern and the way that they like check each other to make sure they like touch each other. And
and Dan has thrown his body in front of
I
Yoke.
Don't know why in that moment, but
we
like
both in that scene were like
the way that like the noise that came out of my body when that scene happened.
We had the same reaction.
I just like, oh my God.
It was incredible. Okay, so what other characters are there? There's so much in this show.
Yeah. So one character that we haven't talked about that I really like is, and I forget her name, their classmate who was Mon's ex-girlfriend, who like, girl, you really dodged a bullet there by breaking up with Mon or Graham.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Mon. I've been saying that all day. I've been like, Mond. No. No, it's not Mond. It's Graham.
Yeah, they established that he's dated this girl at the beginning, and she's the one that like has been like the voice of reason of like, you guys are in this like potential. Are they in like a what's the term, like the political. Like political science majors is like that's what they are.
They're law majors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so she very much is like, this is the law, like let's stick to the law. And then that whole exchange that they have in the finale where she's like, the law is not justice. Like, you have to stick to the law,
but it doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we shouldn't change it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's such a solid kind of grounding character for them throughout the whole show.
And her character is also very deeply rooted in the episode that really focuses on the marriage equality piece, which is such a special episode.
Yeah.
And it's really highly reflective of like kind of what is going on in Thailand and what recently went on in Thailand.
Right.
And I mean, it like for international fans, I think that I always try to be careful when it comes to speaking to Thai politics, because like I am not Thai and I really only know the pieces of Thai politics that have been translated for me on Twitter.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I'm not an expert in Thai politics. I'm not Thai. I didn't grow up in Thailand. Right. I don't have Thai family, right? There's nothing that can inform me as an expert on Thai politics. So I try really hard not to speak as though I know anything about Thai politics.
Totally. Yeah.
But again, what I do know about Thai politics is very closely tied to what I'm into, right? Which is BLs.
The actors,
and the actors. And so it was just recently that Tool was on like this government watch list.
Yeah.
And I mean, as an international fan,
for just speaking out on social media,
for speaking out on social media, and he wasn't the only one. There were other celebrities too, and other people in the BL world.
Yeah.
And I, as an international fan, it just like it really, I don't want to say shocked me, because like I like to think I'm cultured. I don't know, like I travel internationally. Right. I speak multiple, like I speak 2 languages. I'm learning 2 more, and I do try and stay informed. But there's something about, quite frankly, the privilege that comes with living in and growing up in a country whose politics are still imperfect. Don't get me wrong, very imperfect, but that are slightly more established, I guess.
Yeah, right.
That there's always a bit of shock that comes when you realize like this still happens in the world in some governments, right? And we're seeing the same thing. And I'm really grateful to BL, because like I wouldn't be half as well informed about this type of issue in Thailand if it weren't for this. And the same thing that's going on in the Philippines right now with their elections, right? Like I have been decently informed about the election in the Philippines because of BL, right? And so like that episode was really, really fascinating for me as an international fan, because and just like it felt very special, because I remember being like worried about Tool. You know, like when that came out, like I was genuinely worried about him. Like I was like, I'll sponsor his visa, bring him to America. Like, well, like I was like, he can come like stay in my house. We'll like put him in the bathroom and nobody can find him and it'll be fine.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this too, about the idea that like we've gotten to a place in BL that's really nice of like, you still need to have the conversation. We can't just put these BLs in a bubble where like, you're gay, cool, we're all on board with it. That there needs to be something said about the greater society, because the society is not okay with it yet. Right. And so it's nice to have that recognition of these shows who their friends are cool with it. Like no one's questioning it within their friend group, but there's very much this recognition that like society as a whole is not okay with it. And they're still fighting for rights within the greater society. And so, yeah, that scene where they're like, they bring a lot of queer culture into that episode, and like the rainbow flag and the like little fashion show, the like catwalk stuff, like it is so cool to see outside of what the like stereotypical tropes and like those kinds of things, to see the diversity of queerness specifically in Thailand, because that's where we are for this show. It's so important to see.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's also like important to remember that like even in the United States, like this fight is still ongoing, right? Like we have won marriage equality, right? Is written into law in all 50 states. But there are still fights that are happening, right? It like for queer people,
multiple places right now within states who are like fighting against like that greater law of like they gave rights, but like of course for one step forward, people would love to take it 2 steps back.
And so it's just like it reminds you that like we're at a certain place in those fights in the country that we're in, but there are other places that are 10 spaces behind on the board, or 20 spaces or 30 spaces right behind on the board. And so like what makes me think, again, like I would never place myself as an expert to speak on these things. But what it impressed upon me is that if it was that impactful to me, I can only imagine how impactful that would be to a Thai fan, right? Or then to pile onto that like a queer Thai fan, right? And so like again, if like that's what makes that episode so cool, is that like if it was that impactful on me, how many more times more impactful must that have been on so many more people.
Yeah.
Which makes it a very cool episode.
Yeah. I mean, we love talking about how much we get into culture and stuff like that. And this is like a great show to kind of show you another perspective into Thai culture and into what's going on in Thailand. And like, because we only see snapshots based on what's fed to us through social media or through the internet. And as we all know, like that's not always the like biggest picture that we can see. And so it's cool to see it within this context.
Well, and I love that for this
from
director,
a queer director.
I love that for this director, like she is a queer director, and I love that she got the platform to tell this story because like I just personally think that like I should not be speaking on this or speaking as an expert. I should be speaking out for it, but not speaking on it as an expert. But like she should be speaking on it as an expert, and she got to. And I think that's awesome.
And for us to champion it, like that's our role as allies, is to like make her voice louder,
right?
Not to like
overtake it or add my opinions or like this is her opinion and her vision, and it's awesome.
Yeah. This show was really surprising to me for GMMTV. Again, because like for what we see as international fans, we have a very specific idea of what GMMTV is and what they do. And so I don't know the big picture. I just know, the shows that they've given us. And so this feels like a new venture for them. And again, I hope we've turned the corner a little bit in BL with some of the stuff. But of course, you do have other shows that you're like, oh, maybe not. So we'll see what comes next. I mean, GMMTV has such a like range
literally
of shows.
Speaking to what comes next on GMMTV.
There's a range of shows coming, and I can't wait to see these actors that we've come to know and love even more so in Not Me, to see what they do next. I want the actor who plays Gumpa. It's funny because every time he comes up, his name is Papang. Every time he comes up in shows, he gets this like little fire for him because he was the brother in Fish Upon the Sky who was like, oh yeah, I'm gay too. And people loved him in that. And so like, again, he played such a solid, awesome character in this show, and he shows up somewhere else, I forget where, but like I would love to see him take a front row because he plays these characters so well. And there's so many characters in this show. I'd love to see Eugene in something where she like doesn't fall for the complete douchebag.
I like Eugene. I think that she's beautiful. I think we played this for love. I think she played this character really well. I kind of think Eugene was supposed to be stupid.
Gosh, you know what I mean? That scene with when Graham is again trying to make his move on Eugene, and then Black comes in. Good grief. Again, Gunn killing it, playing Black, because he has that whole like, where oh my god,
the physicality of Gunn
when
in this
White
role.
when he jumps into that river, like my admiration for Gunn, I send him all the money bouquets.
For me, when Gunn as Black in that last confrontation with Todd jumps up and slides across that table, because I watched the behind the scenes of that, and it's like my favorite behind the scenes from this show. But like anytime the physicality of Gunn in this show like has my mind blown, and I'm like I'm seeing Gunn in like all of these new ways, and it's very confusing for me, and I don't know that like
Singh also playing Todd was really interesting because Singh as a personality, as like the actor, he is very much this like sweet affable.
Soft,
So to see him play Todd was really
this
fun.
Like manipulate, like this
like
manipulator,
power hungry.
Like,
he killed it. Oh, I would replace no one in this show. Everyone was perfect. I loved it so much.
Yeah, so again, I feel like the pacing was a little, I don't think it's perfect. The pacing was a little bit off. I think that the ending was super rushed, but I think I wasn't surprised by how rushed the finale was, because I knew it was supposed to be 16 episodes and it ended up being 14. And so it's like, that's literally 2 hours worth of development that you lose.
Yeah.
So like, I knew we were going to be rushed in some sense somewhere.
Also, this is different.
But I will say that ending for Sean and White, oh,
so good.
My God.
That'll be a rewatch for sure.
Oh my God. Okay,
I can't wait to see the fan edits.
The 2 Sean and White moments for me, like top 2 easy.
Yeah.
Is the moment when White is chasing Sean and they get off the motorcycles in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And they're running.
He goes
and White
the
finally
fence. I love that scene.
And White finally catches Sean and like pushes him. Again, the physicality of Gunn in this show, like, because you look at Off and Gunn and you don't think that Gunn could physically overpower Off. But in this moment, as White and Sean, I fully believe it.
Yeah.
And
because Sean is so soft for
right.
White.
And so like he finally catches Sean and he throws him and he kisses him. And then like they stop, they like pull apart for a second. And you see this rewind, and it's the entire relationship rewinding, and then they kiss again, and it's like a real kiss, and you see this is when their relationship like resets, that they've got all this history, but that now they're together fully as
know
Sean
each other,
and White.
Yeah. Oh,
I might cry thinking about this because that scene is so beautiful and it's so well done, and it just like I can see it in my head right now. It's an outstanding scene. And then the very ending scene with Sean and White he's like, race me to this pillar, whoever gets there first gets to ask something of somebody else, and they're hugging and they kiss, and and then Sean says like, what is he says, now that's what I call resolved. Or is that the exact line? I have to find the exact line. Continue talking about this. But
yeah, I think the like really sweet BL moments in this show only add to it. Like sometimes I feel like in shows, especially shows like this, where there's like depth and there's like true substance to the show, the BL of it all could take you out of it, right? Where like it could truly almost like disrupt, and you're like, oh, why is this romance there? Like it makes no sense. But in this show, the like depth of their relationship makes perfect sense within the depths of these characters.
It's so outstanding to me.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I love that first Sean and White moment, and it's not even their first moment, right? So like I do love the behind the scenes where you learn that like they actually chose a lot of their own physical intimacy, right? Like like Off and Gunn got to pick that.
Yeah.
But I love so much more this very last moment where he says, hold on, it's playing. I'm gonna get the exact quote because I remember being like, this is a quote. Okay, he says, okay. I mean, this moment, I swear. he says, this is what we call fulfilled.
Oh, right.
Oh my God. Like those are my top two, like Sean and White. I will go down with this ship. I'm here. I'm done.
I loved the shooting style of this show, especially in this last episode. There was a lot of like up close shots of just their faces, which I thought was really beautiful. And I just love the scenery. Like this is scenery you haven't seen in any other show. You really get to see the like urban Thailand and the urban, I guess, Bangkok, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a setting that you don't see often, of course, like university and whatever,
but we're not on campus that much in this show,
right?
Hardly ever.
That's what I'm saying is like we're no longer in a university setting. We got to get out into the streets.
We're university students, but we're not on campus,
right?
Because we're in a gang.
Well, and you have a mixture of university students and
professionals.
Adults.
I do really like.
Is Yoke a student?
Yeah, he's an art student. Remember,
he
gets pulled out of class by the police. It's a whole thing.
So that's the other part of this show that I loved is the art. The artist did a bunch of stuff. The one who actually drew Dan, and the one who teaches the class, he's the same guy. Yeah. It was so cool to hear his stories of like the fact that he got to showcase his art throughout this show, and just the importance of what art plays in changing society. Yeah. And I think that's something to be said because, again, we talk about how new the entertainment industry is in Thailand, and we have seen the impact that it makes and what it could do, even from like South Korea and the K-pop of it all. So I am so excited to kind of see what BL does for Thailand in the next like 2 to 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely agree about the shooting style. One scene that I really liked that I don't think other people liked, I mean, from the brief discussions I saw, was the scene where they're in the van and like they're all shot under the hood, right? Like you see their faces in the hoods. And I mean, I was distraught watching this.
It made me uncomfortable.
I know. It made me feel claustrophobic, which was like pretty amazing because it's very clear that like that's what they're supposed to be feeling. And when there's a line in that scene that killed me when he says, listen to me, when they take us out of this van, because they're all crying together, right? They're all crying together. And he says, you can cry now, but he says, listen to me, when they take us out of this van, don't you cry in front of them. It
was incredible.
I mean, it, like, I literally have goosebumps right now. Like, I mean, that scene really, really got to me, because in that moment, I was like, oh my God, even though I knew that wasn't going to happen, in that moment, I was like, they might really die. Yeah. Like, I genuinely, like, I felt that fear. And I think a lot of it had to do with the shooting style of that claustrophobia that it was forcing on you.
Beautifully shot.
Oh my God.
One of the production people posted on Twitter that scene of them like going into the crowd and being released and like finding freedom through the help of the other protesters was based on real events.
Yeah.
And that is just like, it shows you the power of what the crowd can do when they are mobilized in the right way. And man, like, the show, the conversations that have come from the show are just like amazing to see within the context of BL, just because of like the kind of, the reputation that BL gets sometimes.
Yeah.
I think this conversation shows you that you can have fun and you can fangirl and you can be silly and talk about these like fluffy things, but also a show comes around every once in a while that actually says something really important, and we can have those conversations too.
And what's nice about this show is you can actually do both of those things with this show. You can have fun and be silly and be like, oh my God, off gun. And you can have fun and be silly and be like, oh my God.
Which we know the director does too, because her conversations on Twitter throughout this whole show have her been a fangirl, but also being like, we have something important to say.
Yeah. So like, that's what I love about this show is you can do both. And I think that's really important. And like, and that's what at Let's Talk BL, we always try and do is like, you can have fun with it. It's okay for this to be fun.
Get you a ship that can do both.
You don't have to like feel guilty while watching these things, because I think there are two ways that people are made to feel guilty about watching BL. And one way is that like, it's a weird thing, right? It's weird that you're into this, right? And like, you feel this like shame that somebody's going to judge you, which like you shouldn't. And so that's one way to feel guilty. But there's another way to feel guilty in that like a lot of people are made to feel guilty. A lot of times by other fans saying that like, you're not taking this seriously enough, or you're
taking it too seriously,
approaching this wrong, or you are consuming this in the wrong way, and you're not standing up for the right thing, and you're not doing this, or you're not doing that, and this is your responsibility. And it makes and I think it can make some people feel really guilty about watching these shows. But it's like, no, as long as you're doing both, right, you're still allowed to have fun with it, because that's the whole point. It's supposed to be fun. But if within that fun, you have to have that fun responsibly. Don't take it too far. And also,
we can say Off Gun is real, but know that they're
not real. Right? Like, understand this is fan service, and like, it's the game we're all playing together. Right?
And y'all, Off Gun's been playing this game for a while, and
they're really good at it. Yeah. And so like, that's what I love about the show is you can do both. You get to have the fun, fluffy fangirl, oh my God, Off Gun, and like, isn't Off so cute, and no, right? And all of this stuff. And like, same with like Dan and Yolk, and you're like, I wish he had played the guitar, right? And all of this. But then you can also be like, wow, the messages in this are really impactful, and we should talk about that, right? And so I do love that about this show. Also, my other top thing that I love about this show, before I'll shut up, is that, I mean, some retribution for Off, because I do like Theory of Love.
Yeah.
But Kai was not it.
No.
And
also truly appreciate,
and Sean is perfect.
That
so, retribution.
Gunn didn't have to sob in this show. He perfected the tear.
The single tear. I mean,
Killed
listen, Gunn crying in the shower, Gunn crying while eating a burrito, Gunn, all of the Gunn crying scenes in Theory of Love are truly iconic, and you'll never convince me otherwise.
Fully.
But yeah, it's a different kind of crying.
Yeah. This show.
Gunn crying with the water bottle.
I'm definitely gonna rewatch the show and like multiple times just to like really, because there's probably so many more things that I've missed that like it deserves it deserves multiple rewatches just so that like I can truly absorb everything that this director had to say, because I think she had something to say. And so the other part of this that I think is interesting, I don't know how much we want to touch on this, but the source material is also such a fascinating conversation to have, that you can have source material but make it into something that's like important and like take it
not
somewhere.
That all source material
different.
is unimportant.
No, but what I'm saying is like there was controversy with the source material, but I think they used it in a way that was able to like take the characters that had been created and pull it away from like from that source material,
right? From the fanfic. It was a fanfic.
Yeah.
Which so many of these are fanfic. And that's why, like, when we were talking to Tool, I was like, we need someone to write a fanfic so it can get adapted, because like that's how so much of this starts, is it starts as fanfic.
Because they know there's already an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, if you want to see things get made, if you want certain things to happen, like add to the conversation productively on social media.
Yeah.
Because we know that's how things get done in this world.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have merch. Shop.letstalkbl.com. Buy our merch.
Yeah. Again, stay tuned for what's to come. We have more conversations with awesome people in the next month or two.
Yes, Chap and Green up next week. So excited.
Yeah, we're gonna have some
talk about fluffy fun. I will tell all of our new listeners who are here because of Tool, thank you so much. And the outpouring of love that we got for that interview, we were really nervous to release that because the questions we asked were of a certain caliber, and we did that because it was Tool, and we knew it was Tool.
He would have those conversations,
and so that is important, and we do it as much as we can, but sometimes it's just fluffy and sometimes it's fun, and that's okay. And so I hope that you all really enjoy Chap and Green, because I did, and it's 45 minutes of fluff and fun, and it's perfect and wonderful.
So good.
And
also, You're My Sky finale next
You're My
week.
Sky finale next week.
We got some cool things in the works. Stay tuned.
If you're not watching You're My Sky, please go watch You're My Sky. Because the show is really killing it, and it's so beautifully made. If you appreciate Not Me and the way that like the filmography and like the production value, You're My Sky got you.
Yeah, we have a lot to say about that show too. Lord have mercy, that series Sunday is gonna be a lot.
Happy birthday, Portia.
Yes.
So this has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and keep up with all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL.
Bye.